everyone has their own unique story, and it's very hard to get that story out because you really don't know how to share it. A lot of business owners, that may not be their thing. Marketing may not be their thing, right? How is AI and automation helping you now to navigate the space of marketing and putting yourself out there? And are you using it for that?
I'm using some of it. I got to be honest with you. I'm taking very little baby steps right now. I think AI can be a great tool in the toolbox. And I want to backtrack to one thing for a minute that you just brought up. Your story and who you are is one of the best marketing tools you'll ever have, because it's going to demonstrate the passion you have for what you do. Mm-hmm. And when you share that with prospective clients that can see that spark in your eye, or the smile on your face, or the feeling of satisfaction they're going to have when they envision it in their minds, are going to be the clients that are going to work with you. It can be a great marketing tool if you do it right. Mm-hmm. On the AI, I just started learning a lot more about AI. I've been using, like a lot of us, using ChatGPT to do things like, let's make this proposal look pretty, or I'm now actually working with bots a little bit to do things such as keep my schedule handy and actually do a lot of market research. And they're actually helping me fine tune some of the things that I need, because I am juggling 3 different things.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on another episode of Entrepreneurial Truth. On today's podcast episode, I have Rob Peters with us. Rob, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thanks for having me on. I'm thrilled to be here.
Awesome. Rob, can you tell everybody a little bit about your business, what you do, and who you serve?
So I got into the whole educational thing and what I'm doing now with small business owners as a result of being my own small business person. For about 30 years, I was a mobile entertainer. So I was a DJ that went out and DJ'd weddings and private parties and events. And we eventually transitioned into a service that actually goes out and performs trivia and live game shows. But over the past 20 years, I've been actually educating small business owners on how to run businesses. There are certain industries out there, for example, the mobile DJ industry, where it's very talent-based, and there was no education formally on how to be a business person, and that's what I've been doing. So what I do now is I actually work with small business owners and people who are doing side hustlers who are looking to become a little more legit, and helping them become legit and actually be a little bit more business savvy.
Oh, I love that. I love that answer. So, all right. So there are a lot of companies, a lot of businesses outside of like mobile entertaining that literally
Mm-hmm.
don't understand that, doing the craft isn't the same as running a business, right? Can you jump into a little bit about that, about the differentiation, so someone that's listening can understand what the difference between doing something you love and actually running a business?
There's nothing wrong with, if you do something you love and you're making some money with it, that's one thing. But when it begins to become something that you're so passionate about that you can envision making a living, doing something that you love, there's obviously some things that you need to consider when it comes down to that. Your business plan, your strategy. If you're not quite there yet, you don't understand what those things are, maybe you're still in that whole hobby era. But at some point, it's going to be like, for me, and I'll explain, I guess the best way to explain this is from my own experience. I was working a full-time job and DJing on the side to put extra money in my pocket. It eventually got to the point where I had more leads and revenue coming in and demand for me as a mobile DJ than my day job. Like, the amount of revenue I would bring in being a mobile DJ exceeded what my day job was. And it was a passion thing. And that's when I decided it had to become a little bit more serious. And when you take it a little more seriously, you need to start having structure. And that's where the business aspect of learning how to be a business person is going to come into play. when you need that structure, when you realize that, hey, this is how I'm making my living, taking the plunge is what I call it. When you take the plunge to go and make what your passion's been for a year, 5 years, 10 years, and you decide you're actually going to make this the way you're going to make a living, that's when you need to start putting some things in place and understanding more about how a business works. Because it's not just collect the money, put it in your pocket. You've got to talk about budgeting. You've got to talk about how much you're going to spend on marketing, how much you're going to spend on equipment, how much money you're going to put towards you. And once you understand all that, you kind of realize, okay, this isn't just me having an envelope for my money and having an envelope for buying new equipment and having an envelope for marketing. It's putting that all together in a way that makes you seem a little bit bigger than it just being, hey, I'm Rob the DJ.
Right. Right. And then for you, did you get that business experience for the from the company you're working for? Were you working in that type of capacity, or did you get mentorship, or what did that look like for you when you decided to switch from that full-time job to now being a DJ?
So not a lot of it came from where I've worked as a career. Some of it did. I got into DJing when I went to college. I actually was a very shy kid. And one of the upperclassmen who I became friendly with taught me how to DJ. And back then, I'm an 18, 19-year-old college kid. I learned three things rather quickly. I made some money, I liked it, and the girls liked me. The girls enjoyed what I did, and I became a little more popular, I guess is the best way to put it. I got a degree in communications and business administration. So some of the stuff I've learned actually did come from textbook, which is pretty fair. When I left college and continued to DJ part-time, I learned from other people in my market, and I became very friendly with one of my mentors. His name was John Allo, and he was a DJ from another town, and I had run into him at certain wedding shows and just meeting different people in the industry. They kept on talking about him, and he was the guy in my market who had the really cool marketing. Like, he had his stuff together in my eyes. So I became friendly with him, and I learned a lot from him. And before he passed away, we really became friendly, and he shared a lot of things with me and helped me take that plunge in from being a part-time guy who just did this for a couple of bucks into actually being a business person. A lot of my other business experience actually came from my dad. My dad ran small businesses throughout my childhood. He ran gas stations. So I learned a lot about how to run a business just from watching my dad, which was pretty neat. And true confession, when I was a kid, that's what I wanted to do. How I ended up here is a totally different podcast for us to talk about.
Oh, wow. Nice. So, okay. So you decide then, all right, you know what, I'm going to turn it into a business. And you have this mentor that's running his business. What was the first thing that you had to structure in order to actually officially have it be a business?
When you leave your full-time job and you have depended on the phone, and again, we're talking before the internet, and you've depended on the phone to ring, there's a lot of free time on your hands. I can remember clearly the first couple of weeks after leaving my job, I would design marketing, but I would have the TV on in the background, and Oprah would come on, or, you know, the game shows would be on, and my attention would get diverted rather quickly. And I guess the first thing I really learned was I needed to structure what my business needed, and I needed to structure that in a way where I time blocked and made sure that I worked on certain chunks of that every day. And then I discovered things like going out and networking, which is something I talk about a lot. I think face-to-face networking is how business gets done. In today's world, we have so many things. We have Google ads and social media stuff and just all these other things that are kind of automated. But you really can't build trust without a face-to-face conversation. So I learned how to go out and network. I actually hired a networking coach, and she actually taught me how to go to a networking event and actually meet people
Ooh.
and have conversations and make it so that you're going to a networking event and you're maybe walking out of there with 2 or 3 very useful connections, as opposed to going in and having it be like speed dating where you're walking around and going, hi, I'm Rob Peters, and hi, I'm Rob Peters, and you're meeting 25 different people. You really can't get a worthwhile conversation out of any of that. So I learned how to do that, and I began to become very structured in that. One of the things I learned going down the road is the mobile DJ business was mostly weekend oriented. So the majority of my work were on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. As I went through this process over about 30 years, I learned that there was plenty of work in the weekday too. But the big thing I had to learn was just a little discipline for me on how I wanted to build this business. I did my business plan and set goals and didn't really wish for my goals to come true. I realized I actually had to make sure they were actually going to happen.
And then how have you seen it change from when you first started to now in terms of even networking to generate revenue in your business?
COVID-19, the pandemic, really kind of impacted a lot of that. We were doing a lot of stuff online and a lot of virtual conversations, which I don't think are a bad thing because they're still here today.
Right.
But I find that when you go to a networking event now, pre-COVID and pre-pandemic, you had maybe, depending on who was putting it on, you had a big crowd that would come in because there were people, they were cool with going to an event like that and meeting people. Nowadays, you don't see that many people going. And I think it's a combination of we've become really used to this whole virtual thing. But I also think it comes down to the world has changed about what our priorities are when it comes to business.
And how do you see it affecting businesses now?
The ones that made it through the pandemic are still here, which I think is great. I think the changes that are out there, though, have made things a little bit easier to do business. But I also think it makes it easier for there to be people out there that are doing business and doing it the wrong way. And what I mean the wrong way is misunderstandings about what expectations are and having to do a little bit more work. Like before this interview, I actually was on the phone with 20 minutes with a client that wanted to book a team building event. And it was a 20-minute conversation that if I was able to go to her office and have that meeting face to face, we could have wrapped it up in 15.
Wow.
And I think I could have probably earned her trust a little bit more just by walking through the door. I think it's becoming easier to do business. So I don't want to knock that. But I also think that there's a certain level of earning somebody's trust that takes a little bit longer because this communications become a little bit easier.
Right. And you still do networking events?
I actually go face to face. Actually, one of the things we do now that I've transitioned into a lot of the entrepreneurial education is I actually run facilitating networking events with certain chambers of commerce where I actually am the moderator. People come in and I have them do activities to meet certain people. You usually go to a networking event and it's, hey, I'm Rob Peters and I'm the fun guy. I am the Game Show Parties of Boston chief fun officer, and we go out and we do that. And you have everybody go around the room and do that. That's what most networking events look like.
Right.
The problem is what happens after that.
Correct.
Okay, you've heard everybody's 60-second introduction. Now what? That's where I come in because I actually do the now what? How do we get those conversations going? How do we get people to talk to one another? How do we engage that? And I use a lot of the stuff that I do when we go out and we do game shows for events and team building and things like that. I get people into groups and I get them into an environment where they engage. And one of the things we do at the end is we actually give everybody a written contract. If you made one connection at an event that I'm facilitating, you and that connection are going to sign a contract that says in the next 7 days, you're going to do something to continue the conversation. Because once you leave that networking event, your life hits you in the face. Like if you've shut your phone off and you've been at a networking event for an hour, what's the first thing you do when you walk out? You pick up your phone, you turn it on, and all of a sudden the notifications go off. And your real world is now hitting you in the face, and those business cards that are in your pocket are not that important anymore.
Oh, I
By
love that.
doing a contract, when people pull out their business cards and they pull out this contract that they've signed, it's not a legal binding contract, mind you, but it allows people to be able to be accountable to the connection they made and the investment they made in coming to an event like that. So that's one of the things that I'm doing when I'm a facilitator. I love just going and meeting people because I think a networking event is a great way to catch up with some of your old connections and at the same time, maybe make a new connection that might be valuable to you.
Wow. And do you think that the coach that you have had contributed largely to your success? And do you advise other people to get coaching in networking?
The second part is yes, partly because that's pretty self-serving. That's kind of what I do. She was very instrumental in getting me to come out of my shell a little bit more. As a entertainer, you tend to be very extroverting. You have to be on.
Right, all the time.
And that sometimes can be overwhelming when you're in a room with 25 other business people who maybe don't need to be that on. You sometimes come across as a little too, maybe it's ADD, maybe it's too high energy, maybe it's you've had 5 cups of coffee and you should have had 2. But I think that coach really taught me how to be able to do things like call up the people who are doing these events and ask who's going to be there. And if there's somebody who's on what I call a big fish list, how do I meet them?
Oh, I like
so
the
big fish list. And let me talk about that because I'm sure you're curious.
Yeah.
I tend to not only look at businesses on smaller levels as ideal clients, I look for big fish. And big fish are organizations that are very well known in my community who I would love to work with, who I think our cultures match, and I think we would be a good fit to be able to work together. And I have a list of about 5 or 6, and when I get one, I celebrate it, and then I put another big fish on the list. It's kind of like your client wish list. If you remember when you were a lot younger, and I equate this, and this is going to tell you exactly how old I am. When we were kids, one of the big things we used to get is we used to get the big, thick Sears catalog around the holidays. And it had everything Sears had, and it was all the new toys and everything else. And what you did was you sat down and you made your Christmas wish list out of the Sears Big Book. It's a similar philosophy, but without a big book. I actually look around and see what kind of businesses I think would be a good match for us to be able to work together, where it would be mutually beneficial for us to be aligned, and they go on the list.
Oh, and how do people identify what makes up an ideal client? So you're starting your business and you take everybody in. How do you start to filter that and say, hey, listen, these are the people that I want to work with?
Think about nightclubs. Nightclubs have that line, right? Like you've got a line of people waiting to get in, and what do they celebrate? They're separated by a red velvet rope, right? So if you're a VIP, you walk up to the big bouncer and he's got that clipboard and he looks down, and if your name's on the list, he disconnects that red velvet rope and lets you in. That's how you do it. Because at some point, you can't be everything to everybody. When you're first getting started and you're trying to, what I call, grow your legs in the business, meaning you're trying to stand on your own 2 feet and be an established business or business person. At some point, you begin to realize that maybe there's a client, or in my case, there have been dozens of events throughout 35 years that I should have never taken. They went great, but behind the scenes,
it was a nightmare.
I probably would have been better versed staying home. It wasn't a good fit. It wasn't a good opportunity. And I think you need the experience of taking all those people in to discover who those ideal clients are. You're going to know who they are because at the end of whatever you're doing, whether it's the purchase or whether it's the event or whether it's the experience you have with them, you're going to look back on it and you're honestly going to think, do I really want to work with this person again? And that's how you're going to identify who your ideal client is. And once you do that, you're going to start seeking out more of those people that fit that mold. But I think for every business out there, it's going to be different. And I think it also does come down to personality.
So do you do a lot of mapping by culture, or tell your clients, culture, fit, revenue, or it's just a combination of everything?
It's a combination of everything. But I think if I'm giving you one thing that I'm looking for, it's how well did we work together? And it doesn't matter what your culture is. It doesn't matter what your revenue is. As long as you fit what our revenue is, we're okay with that. But I think it comes down to, how did this go all the way around? Was it great for their guests? And again, I'm talking about what I do. Was it great for their guests? Was it a great experience for me? Did I enjoy this process of working with them?
Right.
Or was it not so much?
Right.
And that's something we're beginning to teach with some of the stuff we do, is how to make yourself the only you, how to be the one that stands out in the crowd. And again, I equate it to the mobile DJ industry. Every mobile DJ advertises certain things, and we all look the same. And because of purchasing trends and new equipment, we're all beginning to really physically look the same in our setups. And how do you differentiate that? And one of the things that I think is important is who's on that red velvet rope and who are you going to let through? That's going to differentiate you in a crowded area.
Well, and is that something that's going to be in your coaching program, or is it in your book? Like, tell me a little bit more. Dive into that.
So I'll dive in a little bit. One of the 10 I have 10 unbreakable rules for small business success in my book, The Small Business CEO's Playbook, which came out last February. And I wrote that book basically because I took all that stuff I did for the mobile DJ industry and discovered that the mobile DJ industry wasn't the only one that could benefit from that. So I took all the good stuff from there and took a lot of stuff from my own experience and wrote a book that's designed to help entrepreneurs and small business owners and people who are side hustlers who are ready to take what I call the plunge and give them a guidebook that's going to help them be successful. In that book, I detail 10 rules that I call our unbreakable rules for small business success. And one of them is called Be the Only You. And what that means is, in any market, there are plenty of competitors. What are you going to do to stand out from the crowd? Is it how you market? Is it knowing who your ideal client is? Is it the kinds of events? In my case, I got away from doing weddings and bar mitzvahs and private parties, and I focus now strictly on bar and restaurant entertainment, parties that want a live game show, and corporate events. That's all we do. And it actually has worked better for us. And it's not to discredit brides or bar and bat mitzvah moms or anything like that. It's something we feel is a better fit for us because we've invested in it. And that's one of the things I talk about, is how to differentiate yourself in a crowded marketplace, because it's very easy, because of a lack of consumer education, to be lumped in as, oh, it's just the DJ. But I'm not just any DJ. Nobody has my story. Nobody has 39 years of mobile entertainment experience and being recognized by Nickelodeon as a parent's pick for outstanding kids entertainment, or appearing in a Disney Plus movie, or being inducted into the Hall of Fame. Like, nobody has that. There's only me that has that. But I know that. I just need to know how to translate that into something that my clients or prospective clients are going to benefit from and want to work with me on.
Yeah, and I have to agree with you on that. Everyone has their own unique story, and it's very hard to get that story out because you really don't know how to share it. A lot of business owners, that may not be their thing. Marketing may not be their thing, right? How is AI and automation helping you now to navigate the space of marketing and putting yourself out there? And are you using it for that?
I'm using some of it. I got to be honest with you. I'm taking very little baby steps right now. I think AI can be a great tool in the toolbox. And I want to backtrack to one thing for a minute that you just brought up. Your story and who you are is one of the best marketing tools you'll ever have, because it's going to demonstrate the passion you have for what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And when you share that with prospective clients that can see that spark in your eye, or the smile on your face, or the feeling of satisfaction they're going to have when they envision it in their minds, are going to be the clients that are going to work with you. It can be a great marketing tool if you do it right.
Mm-hmm.
On the AI, I just started learning a lot more about AI. I've been using, like a lot of us, using ChatGPT to do things like, let's make this proposal look pretty, or I'm now actually working with bots a little bit to do things such as keep my schedule handy and actually do a lot of market research. And they're actually helping me fine tune some of the things that I need, because I am juggling 3 different things. I'm juggling my opportunities outside of being a consultant and a small business coach, and my business and my personal life. It gets very complicated.
Mm-hmm.
So to have somebody working behind the scenes that can do that, that is actually doing a really good job of it, and have it be something that's simple.
Mm-hmm.
AI is actually very simple once you understand how to use it.
Yeah.
Truth be told, I'm actually taking an AI certification course right now, so I can kind of get deeper into this whole thing and be able to better educate the small business community on how it all works. But I'm learning a lot of it kind of the way I learned how to build my business before I met John Allo. I was doing it all based on just what was happening to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reading articles here and there, but I'm just starting to use AI as a tool in the toolbox to just kind of manage certain things behind the scenes and make sure things don't get missed.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, that is definitely our journey here too, even for our podcast, um, having lost a business and then learning that I never had the right systems in place, and then going from systems to starting our AI company. It really has been a journey. And I do feel like everyone's story leads to where they are supposed to be, and
We all have our own finish line,
mm-hmm.
right? Like we all have my idea of what my finish line looks like, and where I'm at my age is probably about 10 years, as opposed to somebody who's just getting started and they're passionate about what they do, and they're just getting started on it, and they're just right now trying to get from doing this as something I love to put a little money in my pocket into becoming and making it a legitimate way to make a living. And so those finish lines are a lot different, and finish lines change. And that, I guess, is the other big thing. Your business plan is always going to be a structure. Your strategic plan is going to give you those different finish lines you're going to want. It's going to be based on what you want and what your goals are going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to make this point too, that I do feel like if you are just starting out or you're in your business journey and you partner or get mentorship or you get coaching from someone that is ahead of you, it significantly changes the game.
I
And
want to quote you on that, because it's funny being in certain industries where they look at coaching and consulting as being a big waste of time. But I agree with you. I think there's nothing wrong, okay, with asking for help.
right.
Because that help can save you when you're drowning.
Yep.
Or when things are not going right. Or, God forbid, that unexpected happens.
Correct.
And
Because you just don't know what you don't know.
Exactly. And that was the foundation for why I wrote the second edition of 20 years ago, I wrote a book just for mobile DJs on how to run a business. I wrote this second book because I wanted to be able to give people the benefit of what that experience looks like. In the book, I detail a lot of lessons I learned and a lot of things that people can use. And there are some things in the book that I talk about and mistakes I've made. I've made mistakes. I made a mistake that cost me a relationship for a little bit with one of my big fish.
Mm-hmm.
And it's embarrassing, but I put it in the book because it's something that, quite honestly, I'm not proud of, but could save somebody from making that kind of a mistake. And if I'm doing that, then I'm doing my job.
Yeah. And I love that you say that, because a lot of people don't want to put that out there because it is
Nope.
embarrassing. But what they don't realize is that you went through whatever it is that you went through in order to become that lesson for someone else. So it's not a bad thing in that regard, because you had to go through that in order to be able to help someone else.
Exactly. And you're still standing at the end of it. Like, I went through a series of these. No day is ever going to be perfect when you're running your own business.
Mm-hmm.
And there are days, if you let it consume you, that's when you're not going to be relevant, or that's not when you're going to exist.
Mm-hmm.
And if you let it trample on you enough, you're going to throw your hands up and you're going to go back onto a job board and start looking for something else to do. And you're going to give up. And that's probably one of the biggest mistakes you can make, because there are people who get in who have that passion.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people who get into it who think they have that passion, but they're more concerned about the dollar signs.
Right. Right.
And I don't want to say they're doing it for the wrong reason, but at the same time, I think the passionate people win out 9 times out of 10. And when those passionate people go, you begin to see a gap in the marketplace.
Right.
That could eventually impact a lot of other things that people could benefit from.
And if you had to go back in time and give yourself some advice, what advice would that be? And what tool would you give yourself?
Oh my gosh. I think the first big thing I would have said to myself is, at the end of the day, remember that this is just one part of who you are. My business identity became my identity for so long. And there are other things in life that you need to stop and take a look at. Your personal life, your family, your friends. Being a mobile entertainer, and the majority of my work being on the weekends, I missed out on family events and certain things and hanging out with friends and everything else. And maintaining that structure is very important. But I think the big piece of advice I would have given myself a long time ago is make time for you. Because if you're not at 100%, you can't be any good for the people who depend on you. And some of the people that depend on you are the people that are going to do business with you.
Wow. Wow. And what tool would you have given yourself back then?
I would have found a coach sooner. I would have met a guy like John, or approached John. I mean, I knew who John was for probably about 7 or 8 years before I even bothered to introduce myself to him, because I'd fallen into that trap of, he's my competitor. And one of the things that I've learned, and one of the things I'm preaching now, and this is in any industry, is you can have competitors and competition is healthy, but you're all in the same pool. And at the end of the day, as a small business owner, if your world craters and something happens that prohibits you from being able to fulfill an obligation, what are you going to do? Are you going to tell the client too bad? Or are you going to go try and find somebody to help them? And in our industry, it's a little bit easier because it's people and people. So when I've had that happen, and it's happened 4 or 5 times in about 38 years, where I've actually had my world stop and actually had to take myself out of being a business owner to deal with something personally. There's no shame in calling a competitor, and I don't even want to use that word anymore. I preach that we're all colleagues. It's not about the competition. Yeah, you might have lost an event or some business to them. But you know what? I'm sure that if you called them up and said, hey, look, I'm in a jam. I have a client that needs this. Something in my world has come up. Is there any way you can help me? As humans,
Mm-hmm.
we will go out of our way when people say, will you help me?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a flex reaction. So it doesn't matter about all that other stuff at the end of the day. But I would have looked for a coach a lot sooner than I did because I think I would have did a lot more.
Wow. And looking down the road for the next 5 years, what do you hope your biggest accomplishment will be?
I'm kind of living it right now, believe it or not. The book came
Nice.
out and I'm doing some speaking to industry trade groups. Uh, my future for me is to continue doing what we're doing on a local level with our game show parties and everything else. But I'm really enjoying this ride of being able to share what I know with other small business owners that can benefit. So right now, it's working on promoting the book and getting out to certain industry groups or certain corporations that can benefit from the experiences I offer. Things like how to develop your business, how to do networking, how to avoid the pitfalls, and being able to help them thrive into their future. That's what my future looks like right now. And I'm pretty happy about it.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And if you could give our listeners 5 tips that you think would take them from where they are to maybe advance them a little bit, what are the 5 tips that you would give?
The first one's real easy. Identify the finish line.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So where you are right now and where you want to be, what does that look like? Kind of like the question you just asked me. Where does my future look like? I know what that end game looks like for me. That's what I want it to be. And that's what I do every day to try and make things work. But know what your finish line is and write a plan for it. If you were to take a trip and you were taking a road trip, for example, across the country, I know, and I'll use myself as an example, I am in Boston. If I am going to Seattle, Washington, I'm not just going to get in the car and drive west. Like, I'm going to have a plan. I'm going to need to look up hotels. I'm going to probably look for some cool stuff along the way that I want to do. I'm going to go onto Facebook and look and find some friends so I can maybe make this partly a social trip. But I'm going to have a plan on how I'm going to get from Boston to Seattle. And I'm going to develop a plan. Am I going to follow through on every bit of that plan? I'm going to try. But things are going to happen along the way. I'm going to get into Chicago and maybe it's a blizzard, right? We're not going to know. But I know if I'm heading that way, I want to stop in Chicago and have deep dish pizza. I'm a foodie. That's what happens to me. But make a plan. I think that's the big thing that gets overlooked is people just go and wander aimlessly and go, all right, I'm going to go after this opportunity and I'm going to go after this. They don't sit down and make a plan and map it out. But don't just map it out as to what your end game is. Map out how you're going to get there. And I guess that's the second big thing is if you write a business plan, which is that big overview, have a supporting document that is how you're going to get there. And that's your strategy. And don't be afraid if that strategy changes month after month after month. The next one, that is a biggie. It comes down to networking. And I talk a lot about networking in the book. And some of the workshops we're working on that I'm doing for corporations right now is how to go to a networking event and be able to walk out with some good contacts. Mm-hmm. Don't be afraid when you go to a networking event. If you're surrounded by people who are not a good fit for you directly, do not be afraid of still doing an introduction to those people and letting them know who you are. Mm-hmm. Because they might not need you right here, right now. But it's not about that direct connection between you and the person who's right in front of you. I want to get to know the other 65 people in their immediate network that they're working with that might be someone that might want what I do. Mm-hmm. The story I tell, and I'll share this story. I was in a networking group, and now again, I'm the fun guy, right? Like I'm the DJ in this role. So I'm going in and I'm talking about how much fun weddings are. And we just got a photo booth and I'm surrounded by a lot of high wealth people. Like there's a realtor who sells $1 million homes. There's a person in the room who is a financial advisor, and your net worth has to be $1 million for you to even have a meeting with him. And there were a lot of other high value people in the room, and we would do our introductions, and then people would pair off and have conversations. And I kind of felt like the kid who got picked last to play baseball in Little League because there was really no pairing for me. And I went to several of these networking groups. It was hosted by a very lovely woman who I'm very friendly with now because she's an event planner, and she's been a really big supporter of a lot of the stuff we've done. I went to her and I said, I think I'm going to drop the group. And I explained to her why. I'm not getting any connections out of this. I'm a square peg in a round hole. And she begged me to come back for another week. And when I came the next week, she actually pulled me aside and said, listen, it's not about the face-to-face. It's about the people they know. And she actually introduced me to one of the people in the room who was one of those high-value people I talked about, whose wife was on a gala committee that needed entertainment.
Wow.
So it's not about that direct contact when you go to a networking event. You want to make a connection because you know what? You do business with people who know and like you. If they don't know you, they're not going to have an opportunity to like you. So get them to know you. Become at least likable enough that they're going to come to mind when they need whatever it is you offer. They need a new website. They need a DJ. They need this. They need that. Be that person. And it's okay to be the connector because that's what you do. You might not get any value from it, but still to be that authority, that carries a little bit of clout that's not really a tangible win.
Right.
But you being that go-to guy is so cool because you get pretty cool calls. And truth be told, when that happens with me, I sometimes get stuff on my birthday, which is pretty neat.
That is cool. That is cool. I like.
I think,
no, go ahead.
I do want to throw one more thing in there, and I think this is really important. Don't be so hard on yourself that you let your mistakes consume you. And remember that you cannot control what other people say, do, or think. There are going to be people that are going to do business with you who may have a bad experience. There are going to be people who are going to do business with you who are not going to be happy. You cannot make the world happy. If you can, do me a favor, please let me know your secret because I'd love to learn more about that. But it's okay to have people that aren't happy with you. You can't control what they think. It's how you handle it on the back end. We talk about online reviews and getting reviews and testimonials. I see people who go on, and I've actually witnessed this in my market. There's a diner here in town that just opened up, and the owner, every time he got a good review on Facebook, jumped on. Hey, thanks. This is great. Thanks so much for your support. Every one of them. And I had a bad experience there. So I was objective. I said, the place looks great. I'm very happy for you. However, this is what happened. It was 3 months ago. It hasn't been acknowledged. I never got a, hey, I'm sorry to hear that. Can we talk more about it?
Right.
If you get that, and I guess this is the other piece of advice I'll throw in there, respond to every testimonial and review on who you are and what you do. Don't respond to just the good ones because it obviously shows, but don't respond to all the bad ones because you're going to neglect the people that are going to become your raving fans. And truthfully, getting raving fans and developing repeat business is going to make things easier for you than spending more time and effort in trying to attract new business into what you're doing.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. That you have to be able to, good or bad, respond to it. Wow.
And it's okay. Don't neglect the bad ones. Don't neglect the good ones. Respond to them all. But remember, you may never solve that problem. Like I have one bad review on Wedding Wire from a mom of a bride who didn't really, it was a series of bad situations. And the point I'm getting at is the day of the wedding, the dance floor was packed. Everybody had a good time. And I even have a testimonial video from her daughter and her son-in-law. But she wasn't happy. And I took the time to actually address it with her in the forum and then said, can we talk about this offline? With your bad reviews, if it's something that you don't think is going to be resolved with your response, don't air your dirty laundry and go back and forth with them in that review, because it's just going to sink you deeper. Take your bad reviews offline and have a conversation with them and try to resolve it. And if you do resolve it with them, it's okay to ask them and say, hey, would you do me a favor? I know you put up a review, and quite honestly, I would like to show that we actually took care of you. Would you be willing to put up a comment that we had a conversation, so on and so forth?
Well,
you may get it, you may not.
Well, and is that something that you also address in your book?
I don't. Actually, it's funny because we talked beforehand. So I'm writing 3 online courses. Well, 2 right now, but as we keep talking and I keep doing interviews on podcasts and different things, more ideas pop into my head. I'm working on one right now that's based on the 10 rules for small business success, which is a deep dive. That one's hopefully going to be out by the middle of April. I'm working on another one that's about text marketing and how to do text marketing and how to make it work. But I'm actually also working on one right now about trade shows, because I find that as costly as they are, when you do a trade show, you have people who are walking into a room who are kind of qualified and want to talk to you. And whatever your perception is, whatever your booth looks like, and whatever your strategy is, needs to count, especially with the investment you're going to put in to be there. And I think that gets overlooked a lot. Things like handwritten signs and, sitting behind the table, and there's a table between you and the people you're talking to. You're putting up a barrier that basically says, hi, I'm here, but you're not that important for me to be on my feet and come out front and shake your hand and get to know you better. Sounds cruel, but that's kind of the perception that's out there. So I'm working on that. And, I make little notes here. It could be a blog post. We do a blog once a week on a bunch of different things. So we do put that out there. But the online courses that are coming up are going to be more about some of the content from the book, the trade show thing, which I think is really important. And then who knows? These topics come up from time to time, and I'm like, that would be a good one. I just have to. It's honestly like herding cats at moments when it comes to my content, because I just feel like there's so much that small business owners that are trying to make it right now need to learn. And I would love to be the guy that shares it all, but I think I have to do it one step at a time.
Awesome. And how can our listeners find you?
Real simple, robpeters.biz. On the internet, it's the easiest way to find. That's where you're going to find information about me. It's where you can buy a copy of the Small Business CEO's Playbook, which, by the way, for your viewers of your podcast, I have a special offer if they would like to buy it and use the promo code HUSTLE10. So HUSTLE, the number 10, they can save $10 on the book.
Love it.
And I'll autograph the physical copies. That's for the online. That's for the physical version. There is a Kindle version that is on sale on Amazon that you can link to through there. And there's all the information about all the workshops we're working on. There's an area called Entrepreneurial Extras, which is our blog where I talk about any number of things. One of the big blogs we just did, and remember, I'm from New England, don't fault me, is I actually did a really cool blog about a month ago, right around Super Bowl, about Patriots coach Mike Vrabel and his management style, and about how he waits for every person that was on the field to come into the locker room. He waits for them outside the locker room, and he shakes their hand and thanks them individually for the work they did, win or lose. And it's very powerful stuff. In fact, and I'm not really a big football fan. Full disclosure, I'm a NASCAR guy, which is another total different breed. But I just found it interesting about how he led that team this year, and certain things he did in his style that I thought was really cool. So there's a whole bunch of stuff in the blog. It's useful stuff. It's stories of things that I've experienced. It's things I observe. And it's all designed just to put some more information out there from my perspective that is hopefully going to help somebody who's trying to build their little empire into something big.
I love it. Rob, thank you so much for being on today. You have been a guiding light to these business owners. I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much.
I appreciate being on. Thanks for having me.